talknorth-com. Local Minnesota company making Minnesota sports-themed apparel. I wear my Minneapolis 99 basketball shirt all the time. They have really cool trucker hats. They have all kinds of stuff. Right now, they have their first day of summer special. You buy a gentleman's shirt, you get a free pair of gentleman's socks. These are button-up shirts to go with all the other cool stuff they have at their site. Check them out at sodastick.com or sodastickco.com. Either will get you to their website, and we'll display all the cool stuff they have. And again, we like their basketball stuff. They also have hockey, football, baseball. They have a new T-shirt out that kind of honors the old Midway Stadium St. Paul Saints. They have all kinds of gadgets. They have homages. How do I say it, John? Homages.
Homage. Right?
Homages. We work everything out slowly on the show, but we get there. To Randy Moss's great Green Bay incident. They come up with stuff right on, that's on the minute, like Jack Morris's stuff. With him going to the Hall of Fame. You get a lot of really cool stuff. And again, it's a Minnesota company. I wear their stuff. You should wear their stuff too. So I'm thinking, okay, I get why the Wolves took him. I'm not thrilled by it's not exciting, but I get it. And then the Warriors take a guy, and Bob Meyer goes to the podium and says, "Oh, this guy's going to play for us right away." And I go, "Oh, really? That's interesting. I'm not sure this guy's going to play for the Wolves right away."
Yeah, I mean, and the Warriors, the big talk kind of about from the Warriors leading into the draft was that now they've been to 4 straight finals. Their veterans are going to need kind of a break in the regular season. They're not, they have been through some grueling schedules these last 4 years. And for the Warriors to kind of maximize their longevity and position themselves to continue this amazing run that they're on, they need guys like Jacob Evans, who they drafted, to step in right away and play good minutes. And I think that what the luxury that the Warriors have is that they can afford to play these guys because they have the heavy hitters that are probably going to stake them out to big leads. And even if they only win, God forbid, 57 games instead of 64, once they get into the playoffs, they know they're fine because you have Durant and Curry and Draymond and Clay and all these amazing stars. So they can kind of use the regular season as a petri dish and as a sort of this incubator for their bench guys and their young guys, and to develop them, to put them in roles that they will eventually probably have to take years down the road if they lose some of these other guys. And it's a great spot to be in. San Antonio did that forever and ever too. Now the Wolves are not in that spot. They're going to be scratching and clawing in the Western Conference, and so every win really is going to mean something for them next season. You just saw it last season, where it comes down to the very last game of the regular season. So Tibbs is certainly in a different spot than Steve Kerr is, but I do think that it will be very beneficial to the Wolves if they are able to at least go light on like a poor man's Warriors at times and play their bench more, get them confidence, get them some chemistry and some rhythm and some synergy, so that if they have injuries or if someone else isn't performing well, those guys can kind of step in and carry a load much better than they have the first 2 years under Tibbs.
Let's get to some good Twitter questions here, and then let John wrap up whatever other thoughts he has about the Wolves or the NBA draft. We do want to thank Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. I also recommend following Tony on Twitter. Sometimes he sends out some really cool promos, some of them aligned with charitable efforts. And obviously you know about State Farm, you know about State Farm's reputation. And as I've told you before, I deal with Tony all the time, and he and his staff are very responsive. They have a very intuitive app you can use. And even though he works out of Champlin, you can, I've never been to Champlin, and I've worked seamlessly with Tony. He also supplies insurance for myself and for Michael Russo on the network.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all 700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
All right, Twitter questions. Pete Birkland, did the Wolves have any serious trade discussions? It seemed like the number 20 pick would have been there later. In other words, Okogie could have gotten lower if you wanted to.
They did have serious discussions, absolutely. I reported at The Athletic that a lot of them were geared on moving down. They did make a cursory call to Memphis, when the Grizzlies made 4 available, but they kind of do that with every team. There was not very serious discussions there. I think there were a few other discussions with teams above them, but as Scott Layden told us, which I believe, is that it was very expensive to move up in this draft, just given the talent that was available. Also, another part of that is that a lot of scouts believe that next year's draft is not going to be very good at all. So there was kind of a sense that you had to grab your guys this year because the level of talent is not going to be available next year for you. So that's why it was so expensive to move up. They did absolutely also have some conversations with teams about moving down: Indiana, Atlanta, Portland, several other teams, Dallas, about maybe making some shifts and some trades. But once they saw kind of the run of wings from 14 to 19 go in front of them, they really believed that if they moved down to, say, 30, that there was a really good chance that Okogie and several of the other guys that they coveted were not going to be there for them. And so that's why they ultimately stayed put at 20, just to make sure that they got a guy that they really like, and they didn't have to settle for that. And then at 48, they were just they were, I know every team says we can't believe that player was there, but this is actually a genuine. Yeah. It was surprising to see Bates-Diop fall that far. And so they grabbed him. But certainly there were a lot of conversations. If you remember when they picked Okogie, I keep messing that up. I think it's Okogie. But when they picked him, the clock went all the way down to 0 almost. Mm-hmm. And you're thinking, gosh, is this the Vikings again? Are they going to miss out? But it was because part of the reason was they were really working the phones to the last second to see if there was anything palatable to them. And there wasn't, and so they were happy to take the Georgia Tech guy. From
Dave Cook, what's the deal with Kenneth Faried? Nuggets don't seem to want him. Seems like he would be a good fit with Tibbs' visions. Jang for him, defender, high energy. What am I missing on Faried?
Well, I mean, Faried has really fallen out of favor with the Nuggets, and his value has really plummeted around the league. There are some concerns about what he brings from a character standpoint in the locker room. He's also not very good defensively at all, so he's not, and he's undersized. The one thing, what he is really good at is he does bring an immense amount of energy and outworks guys on the offensive glass and can kind of create some havoc that way. So he does have value, but I do think the perception of him has fallen drastically in the last 2 years or so. And as far as Gorgui Dieng goes, the Wolves absolutely had conversations last night looking to see if they could unload him. They will continue to have conversations about it, but from what I'm told, there's just a lot of skepticism about being able to unload a contract that has 3 years and $48 million left for really a classic, traditional big man in a league that's just getting smaller and smaller by the day. When he signed that deal, it seemed like a good one. Now it's a bad contract, and the Wolves are really going to have a hard time unloading that.
From Nathan Dalsing, who's the first free agent you would contact when the window opens up, gut feeling on contract extension for Jimmy?
A contract extension for Jimmy is definitely it's a wait-and-see thing. I think that he would do or certainly have a lot of interest in a renegotiation and extension this summer that would be in the like the $180 million range. It's a very complicated maneuver, but you could do it. The problem is the Wolves would have to create the cap space to do that, and that would mean giving away Gorgui Dieng. It probably would mean giving away Wiggins as well, just to create enough room to make that happen. So it's not going to happen. It's just going to be too hard. So that means they're going to go into this season needing to do everything they can to convince Jimmy Butler that they are on the right path, that they are on the way to contending in the Western Conference for him to sign next summer. And so that's going to be just an enormous priority for the Wolves this year. I mean, they got to step up into that low 50, mid 50 win range and be able to win a playoff series, and really see guys like Towns and Wiggins take more so Wiggins take a huge step next year. So Jimmy feels comfortable with, if I stay here for the long term, these guys are going to continue to get better, and I'm going to have a chance to win at a high level.
From Juan Stockton, our favorite follow.
My man.
Seems like it was a good haul for Tibbs last night, but does it matter for this coming year? Are the rookies going to get to play more than MGH did? And do you think the second-round pick goes to the G League?
Well, so I think the G League is a possibility, maybe even for both of them at some point. But I really do think in terms of playing time, it's going to be. It depends on what they do in free agency. If they are able to swing a trade or two to add some veteran guys, if they're able to get one of their top priorities on the free agent market, if it's an Avery Bradley, if it's a Wayne Ellington, if it's somebody like that who's going to come in and play major minutes, then maybe the minutes will be more sporadic for the young guys. I can anticipate a scenario where they use their mid-level, they bring back Derrick Rose, they get a few guys that they like, but they're still light on bodies, and they're just going to need to play guys. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes with Tibbs, he just has to have his hand forced to play guys. I mean, that happened with Jimmy Butler in Chicago. He kind of played him as a last resort, and then it started to build from there. So I absolutely see a scenario where maybe they lose Bjelica, and they've already lost Crawford. They get a guy in free agency who's solid but not a star, and then they need to fill in around him and around them with that second unit. And if one or both of these guys shows and deserves it, I think they could get some 18 to 20 minutes a night.
From Luke Reachin's chances of Bjelica staying with the Wolves.
It's going to be interesting to watch. I really don't have a good feel for what he's going to get on the open market. I think that there is some internal concern from the Wolves that he's just going to get priced out. They do want him back. They like the skill set that he brings, and keeping him is a lot easier than going out and signing another free agent. So they would like to do that. They hope that they can kind of come to some agreement to keep him in-house. The question is if he's going to get an offer for $9 million a year, $10 million a year, $8 million a year even, might be a stretch to squeeze him in and stay under the luxury tax. That might be pretty difficult to do.
From Dave Cook, is there a process like the undrafted free agency in the NFL for the NBA?
There is. So, but it's a little bit different. But right now, and immediately after the draft, teams were signing guys to their summer league squad and bringing guys in. Signing guys to two-way contracts and things like that. So there are other mechanisms that are in place for the Wolves to go and look for talent. And I haven't really seen a whole lot of news yet on any names that the Wolves have added, but they will go out and stock their summer league team. And usually they kind of do the summer league team, evaluate how they look there, then kind of get them into training camp. And if there is a guy like a Marcus Georges-Hunt, like Emil Jefferson, Anthony Brown, who impress, maybe they sign them to either free agent contracts or to two-way deals and see if they can keep them in the system.
One more Twitter question. Thanks to all of our listeners. We appreciate it. Check out other shows on the network. Download if you can before you listen. Email me if you know somebody who'd like to advertise with this show in particular. From Eric on Twitter, is Okogie Tibbs' second attempt at getting a point guard he can kind of build up like what Chris Dunn was supposed to be? Not a point guard, but I understand, kind of a strong-bodied defender. Is that kind of what he's looking for?
There definitely are some similarities to Chris Dunn. I mean, I think Okogie's a better three-point shooter than Dunn is, but he's overall a 41% field goal shooter, which is right in line with Dunn, but also a hard-nosed defender, competitive, kind of nasty attitude on the court.